Good evening, Jonathon and Wendy Willis.
Can't hear you.
Don't you start
We
that.
couldn't hear you.
Actually couldn't hear you.
You serious? You couldn't hear me.
No.
But you can hear me now.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
yeah. It does blip out no time. But it's fine.
Oh, all right. Listen, hey, folks, Jonathon and Wendy, we tried to connect there a few minutes ago, folks, and our microphone wasn't working, but hopefully Jonathon and Wendy can hear me fairly well now. You can?
We
Yes,
can,
yes, indeed.
Brilliant. Folks, it is so good to be joining you, Jonathon. I guess you and me, it's really, really good that me and you are here to join each other.
It's a help, isn't it? Yes, indeed it is.
We'll hear a bit about that, Jonathon, in a few minutes. Let's just introduce yourselves to the folk that are going to be watching this. Many of you know Jonathon. Many of you, your friends here, refer to you as the smiling farmer. That's correct?
Not all the time.
Some might beg to differ.
Some say not.
Wendy, I'll hear your opinion on that in a couple of seconds. What do you think? Just tell us a little bit, just the two of you, whoever wants to share, tell us about your 5 amazing girls. I know it's Kate's birthday tomorrow, so just share about your 5 kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, God has blessed us with 5 beautiful girls: Annabelle, Emma Jane, Kate, Scarlett, and Darcy. I've remembered them all. Don't ask me dates of birth, though. I'm not good at that.
Yeah. But they range from 5. Darcy's just turned 5, and then Scarlett is 6. Kate is 8 tomorrow, and Emma Jane's turning 10 next week.
Yeah.
And then Annabelle's 12. So
Annabelle's 12. Annabelle's the oldest.
Yeah.
So Kate's birthday's tomorrow, isn't that correct?
That's
It
right,
is,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, so we're wishing her a real happy birthday. Tell me this, how do you juggle that? How do you juggle that, Jonathon, with the farming and 5 girls plus another girl? We have to mention the 6th girl in your house, Wendy.
Yeah. Well, it was bringing them up, Mark. It was just a bit of a struggle. It was tough for me, rearing them and doing the farm work at the same time.
I can imagine, Jonathon. Yeah. Wendy, you've
Tell
done
you
a
the truth,
good
Mark,
job.
I have defined the fine art of being able to sleep through babies crying.
That is amazing.
Wendy always said that I never happened to hear the children cry, but as soon as a cow's hoof hits the yard and they break out, you can hear them rolling around the yard.
Excellent. Oh, brilliant. Now tell us this. This is amazing because I thought this was a matter of me jumping in the car and heading to Dungannon to meet yous. I didn't know.
Yes.
And then Heather says, when are you flying out to England? Jonathon and Wendy are in England. So, sure, just very quickly, what took you there to that farm? Is it Redgate Farm, Jonathon?
That's correct, yes. An opportunity came up 8 years ago
Yep.
to come across here, and we came across and we liked it, and I suppose it was a decision we had to make, and I suppose for our girls, they were young at that age, and if we were going to do it, we had to do it then. And the nice weather sort of attracted us as well.
Absolutely.
At that stage, I think the weather was worse in Northern Ireland, and it's got better now. And
Yeah.
it's just easier, farming over here because the weather's on our side 90% of the time, and the land's flat, and
That's brilliant.
it's worked in well.
Brilliant, Jonathon, and God's blessing you, and I know.
So,
Now, tell me, what did George and Hillary have to say about this big move?
Well, I don't think they minded too much.
That's brilliant.
But they were fine. And Wendy's mum and dad, they would tend to come across. We see more of them now than we did at home.
Yeah.
Oh, praise the
I
Lord.
think my dad quite likes it over here.
That's amazing.
I think he's going to look at a little retirement home.
Brilliant.
So it is, but no.
It's all good.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Well, listen, I really want to get to just this amazing story and this journey, and I want to hear it from both sides. And I know Wendy explained to me a little bit about it, but I want you, just Jonathon, to recall as quick as you can just that incident with the bale and spike, and just tell folk what happened.
Well, I suppose, Mark, we are work at straw here, and a lot of the straw that we do goes back to Northern Ireland. So we're always loading lorries and stuff like that. And on this particular day, the lorry driver was in a panic to get to the boat, and I was in a panic to get him loaded. So we had straw in one trailer, and we were moving it from one trailer onto his lorry, and there was lorry straps on our trailer holding the load on. And there was a fella at the far side of the trailer, and I thought, being myself, "Oh, he's taking too long. I need to jump out of the loader myself and pull them off." So basically, I got out of the loader, and I was standing with my back to the loader and pulling off the lorry strap. And the next thing, the loader rolled forward, and basically all I could feel was the spike going through my body. So I started to shout to the fella at the other side of the trailer, and he rushed round, and he stopped the loader crushing me against the load of straw as well, or going in. Well, it came right through. I think we have a photograph of the spike. We can maybe sh- show you so you under. This was. I'm not sure if you can see that,
Wow,
but that
yeah,
was
we
our
can see
my
that. We can see
surgeon,
that clearly. That's the
Emmanuel,
surgeon. Wow.
holding the spike. He was he was very proud of it, but
Well, he did good work.
he did a good job. Like, so that's basically how it all happened.
And Jonathan,
Yeah.
did,
All of us are always in a rush, and
yeah,
you
that's
know,
the problem with life. Always trying to rush. The spike pierced right through the front of you. Isn't that correct?
no, it came from
It came through your back.
it came from my back on the right hand side and came out the front
Wow.
on the left hand side. So it sort of went across my whole body.
That is
Because
unbelievable.
when I felt the spike coming in, something made me twist around, and I suppose I was twisting around to see what actually it was because I couldn't believe it. But thank the Lord that He made me twist around, because
Oh,
then
yeah.
it veered past all the vital organs,
Yeah, and your spine
and my
and
spine and everything. So
Jonathan, that's incredible.
no, it is
yeah,
definitely,
your blessing.
yeah.
That's a blessing. I'm going to come to Wendy now because,
So Wendy can tell you about.
yep, Wendy, where were you? How did you react? What took place next?
Yeah, well, I'd actually taken three of our girls that morning to a pony show because our girls all ride and compete. And I think one of the biggest blessings, they always say God had a plan, and God did plan this, and He planned it. He planned the whole thing out because our babysitter works away, and she rarely comes home, and she just happened to message me. My plan was to take all five girls with me to the pony show in the morning and then come back, and she messaged me just on the Sunday night, and she said, I'm actually home. Do you want me? I'd love to come and see the girls. Is it okay to call over? And I said, well, if you want, you can come actually tomorrow, and I'll just take the girls that are riding. So it was a pure blessing because whenever I came home again, I was supposed to come into the house, and Jonathan actually said, oh, can you go and do a few bits for me in the office? So Georgina, our babysitter, stayed on. But when the accident happened, it meant I was only literally 5 meters.
Yeah.
I could hear it
Wow.
happen. So it meant that I was there within, seconds of it happening. And, the biggest thing for us as well, it meant the children were protected from it because Georgina was there and the children didn't see anything. They didn't hear any of it. Whereas had I been in the house, it would have been so, so different. And it meant that I was there instantly with Jonathan, and was able to, I suppose, ring the emergency services and everything. So, but it was definitely quite a shock. And whenever it happened, you couldn't quite believe it. You just couldn't believe what was actually in front of you because I looked and I touched. It actually touched your boiler suit, and I could see then that it went in. And I said, Jonathan. And then he actually moved his other hand to show that it had went right through him and that it was out the other side. And it was just rang the emergency services and I rang house and got Georgina to make sure the girls were all in and safe and sound, and that the curtains were closed so they couldn't see anything because we wanted them to be obviously protected from everything, and thank the Lord they were, and thank the Lord for everything happening the way it did,
Yeah.
and we're so grateful for that. But I only made three phone calls, as I say. You didn't, it wasn't time for phone calls, but I rang obviously the emergency services, and the ambulance, the air ambulance, and the fire brigade and the police all came, bless them, and they were amazing. But and thank the Lord for them. And we rang a good friend who came and was
Yeah.
really, really helpful to the fire brigade and cutting the spike off and everything. And my third call was to Jonathan's brother, and I rang him just as I could see the air ambulance coming in, and I was running to them to show them the best place for them to land, and I rang Andrew, Jonathan's brother, and I just said, Andrew, Jonathan's had an accident. The plan is to airlift him to hospital. Please just ask everybody to pray.
Wow.
And that's all I said. And he said, Wendy, what's happened? And I said, Andrew, I can't talk, but just ask everybody to pray. It's not good. And, I'll talk to you later. And poor Andrew, bless him, it was as short and sweet as that. So I didn't really furnish him with lots of information. It was just pray for Jonathan because, he's going to hospital. He's had an accident, But I kept saying, Jonathan was so calm. You were so calm,
Yeah.
so unbelievably calm. And I just remember saying to Jonathan, I've spoke to Andrew and everybody's praying for you. Everybody's praying for you. Don't be scared. Everybody's praying.
Yeah.
And they were praying.
But I suppose, Mark, at that time, when you're standing with a spike through you, you have plenty of time to reflect on things. And somebody asked me, were you not scared? But after Wendy had said that, there was just like as if my response to this fella was that I felt as if God had put his hand on my shoulder and he was there with me, because I had such a peace, like I wasn't worried. The ambulance people was at a bit of a joke with them, and I said, is the spike too long that I can't get into their ambulance, or is it because I'm too heavy? And I says, well, make sure and keep my boiler suit that we can get it sewed up because times are tight and we can't be buying a new one. Like,
Yeah.
Amazing.
You just that piece was there. Like, it was very, very serious, obviously, but
Yeah, but I think our worker that was there that hopped in the telehandler, and a friend happened to have Kate, and again she works with us, and I'd rang her just before the accident, and she'd rang me back, and bless her, she couldn't understand a word I said because I think I was very calm until the ambulance arrived, and then let them take over completely and do their job. But I think God did have it all planned, and he brought everybody there for a specific reason and a specific purpose, and to be support and help. And it did all happen for a reason. Like, my friend that was there, she had been looking after Kate actually, and the policeman said, you need to get Wendy sorted and get her to get a bag. And I wasn't aware of this at the time, but she said they just said, we're going to blue light her there because we don't think he's going to make it to the hospital.
Wow.
Like it was, I don't think anybody actually
no.
expected
And
there
the
to be a
police,
good outcome.
the police did stay all night because they didn't think that we were going to come through it, and of course they do that too
That's good.
because they have to invest. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but the whole we had to travel in ambulance then to the hospital, and like our nearest hospital is Peterborough, and for some reason we didn't go
Kings
to.
Lynn,
For some reason we didn't go there. We went to Addenbrooke's in Cambridge, which is an hour and 10 minutes drive, and
but it's one of the world's
a world
best
class
hospitals.
World renowned.
There was a surgeon. The surgeon who looked after was Emmanuel Newgate. Like, as soon as he said his name, when they brought me into the prep, they asked me, did I want to see Wendy? And like there was about there might have been 25 or 30 people around the table, and they were trying to work out what they were going to do.
Yeah, it took them quite a while to prepare. In fairness, as soon as I arrived, they took me, straight through to Jonathan, and there was, a lot of people, and they introduced themselves because they, I suppose, didn't know what they were dealing with, and they weren't sure what the spike had damaged and what organs it had hit, or whether it had hit his spinal cord or any of that stuff. So they had all the various teams together to deal with, I suppose, the various different organs that could have been affected. So it was amazing. But as I say, just for God even to have, he couldn't fit in the air ambulance, bless him, but like all of the air ambulance crew got in the ambulance. There was the ambulance staff.
Yeah.
I think he said it was like sardines.
It was like sardines in a tin. And then I had to be asking them, because I was conscious the whole time. Mark and we're coming through a town called Whittlesea, and I says, "There's a McDonald's here. Is there any chance we can go through the drive-through?" And
I wasn't having the same thoughts.
No,
I went to the
imagine
hospital,
when-
Mark.
Yeah,
My
I
thoughts weren't the same.
That's
I suppose
incredible.
that's my way with coping things, and
Yeah,
that's why I always sort of, maybe people think I'm smiling all the time, but if you didn't smile, you'd cry sometimes. So
But again, God took him to the best hospital with the best surgeons and the best care, and he couldn't have had better. He couldn't have had better, treatment. He really couldn't. And what they did during the surgery, when I arrived, actually, they said, this lovely little nurse, bless her, brought me down to Jonathan, and then they took me back to a room, and they said, look, Mrs. Willis, it's going to be at least 10 to 15 hours
Wow.
minimum. We don't know until we get him down to theatre and actually, I suppose, remove the spike and see what the damage is. But it's going to be 10 to 15 hours. And I said, well, can you give me prayer points? I said, we're a praying family, and I know there's a lot of people praying for Jonathan, through this operation. And can you give me specific points that they should maybe be praying for during it? And she said, well, there's obviously the main arteries, so if it's, hit any of them, he'll bleed out. So it's that, it hasn't hit any of them. And then she said 2 or 3 things, and then she actually just stopped and she said, this is actually really high risk, and they just need to pray for everything, absolutely everything, So those were her words. But I said to her, I said, I said, he's a really good person, please can you just, he's such a good person, he'd do anything for anybody, and she said, and you never really hear people in England talking much about God, as you would at home. Yeah. And she just said, oh, God won't take a good one, and I said, well, I hope so. But I went back, and I left the hospital then because of COVID. They said you can stay, but would prefer you to go because nobody was allowed in. So our good friend that brought me to the hospital, he had actually accommodation, which was only 10 minutes from the hospital, which was fairly unheard of.
Yeah.
So I went and stayed there for the night, and people say, did you pray? And I said I prayed 4 words, and my prayer was just those 4 words constantly. And I just said, please God, please don't take him, please don't take him. And that's all I prayed all night. Please don't take him, and that was my only prayer. And our sister, Jonathan's sister, Linda, has great faith, and she sent me a message. Everybody sent loads of lovely messages. It was unbelievable, and we're so thankful for them. But she said that a song had came to her during the day, and she said, this has came to me today. And she says, Wendy, I've listened to it about 3 times, and she says, I don't know why, but she says now it makes sense. And the song is Run to the Father, and then it, my heart needs a surgeon, and she sent it to me, and I just kept, during the night while Jonathan was being operated on, I just kept listening to that and just saying, please God, don't take him, and as I say, our prayers were answered, because it was just a pure miracle, and a pure miracle that as the hospital said, that you didn't have life-changing, you know, sort of, you know, a life-changing outcome either. You know, it could have went,
Yeah.
you know, so many different ways. But as
Yeah.
I say, it was just a pure miracle. And actually, whenever Jonathan came home from hospital, we watched we go to attend a church Kingsgate, and we watched that the first service. We watched the first song at the start of the service was "Run to the Father."
Wow.
Yeah.
You know,
Incredible. Well,
so
listen,
Mark, the only
go ahead. Yep.
there was one disappointing factor in the whole thing. Whenever where I was just about to go onto the operating table, was there was two people had to hold the pin the whole time. They couldn't let go of it, because if they let go of it, then it would hurt or it would cut down the side. But the surgeon comes over, Mr. Willis, is there anything you'd like to say? And well, I just said, you know, when we're in here and you're opening me up, and it was basically they had to peel everything up, take everything out, peel the spike off like a chicken skewer, as they talked about. I says, well, if we could do a bit of liposuction at this stage, it'd be great.
Brilliant, Jonathan.
But, they understood that we trusted in God, and would said this to even the ambulance people when I was on the way there. You're very jovial, and I says, well, the Lord's with us, and we're trusting in Him, and that's what we always. Sunday school years ago with Leslie Knipe and Ian Williamson and all, that is what we were always taught. The Lord will be with us.
Hallelujah.
certainly was.
That's amazing. I want to ask you something. I'm not sure if you've watched this in England, but there's a big thing happening this week here in Northern Ireland. Stephen Nolan, who you all know, Stephen Nolan, the Nolan Show. Yeah. Stephen has done a program Monday night on finding faith. Okay.
Yes.
And realistically, he's got a couple of our videos, and I hope he gets hold of this, because the whole way through this, both of you have just talked about the goodness of God, how God planned, even in a bad situation, how God was there. You've talked about prayer. You've talked about the goodness of God. You've talked about faith. And I know your families, and I know that the prayer requests that were flying around, Jonathan, were absolutely tremendous. Really, really quickly, Jonathan, I just want to, before I come to Wendy, the Willis families had I want to come back to Wendy. The Willis families had a couple of big hits because your brother was ill many years ago too, and God came then.
Yeah.
So just very
Mark,
quickly.
The stories I could tell you about Robin and how the Lord has, brought him back at more times and baffled the doctors. It is unreal. There's just so many we could tell you. And we'll continue to pray for Robin and for his to come back to full health and strength. But he's a miracle,
That's right.
And Judith she's an example to anyone, because she is she's so strong in her faith, and Robin as well. And I look up to him. Was when I was lying in hospital and think what poor Robin went through. Mine's only a patch compared with what he, has come through. And we just continue to pray that the Lord will totally heal him. And they will just, continue to get better.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing, Wendy and Jonathan. I've just been thinking, we're going to just share with the farming community. Like, there's loads of adverts in Northern Ireland on the TV about how quick farming accidents can happen. Jonathan, you are an example of that.
Yeah.
How quick just things can change. So,
definitely.
What would you say, just in a practical way, to farmers watching this?
Put on the handbrake, number one. Sorry, Jonathan.
Never take life for granted. It could easily as went, when if they don't know the Lord and Savior, as their own, that could have been just over like that, and you just do not have time, and people were always in a rush, but we just need to stand back and think of the whole thing. Like, when staff come here from home, harvest workers, we are preaching them health and safety all the time,
Yeah.
And you think it'll never happen to you, but I never thought, and I had so much planned to do the next day and the day after. We're cutting maize, and I hadn't time to be away anywhere else. But you've no,
You know,
it's
saying,
not your choice.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, no,
There's an
no.
amazing verse. There's an amazing verse that's been
So it
coming to
is.
me the whole time you've been talking, and it's in James 4:14, and it's that amazing verse. What is your life all about? It's just like a mist that appears for a little time and then disappears. And really, I'm going to give you both an opportunity,
Yeah.
just as we close, just to tell the folk how much Jesus Christ has meant to both of you. And what's your plans, Jonathan? Come on. What's your plans, you and Wendy, going forward in serving Jesus Christ?
You go ahead first.
Well, do you know what? I just thank God every single day of the week that our girls can wake up to their daddy and that I can wake up to my husband, my best friend, my soulmate, because
It's like it's every girl's dream. Mark.
yes, of course. Yeah. Well, our lives would be so different. Had the Lord not answered my prayer and let me keep him and let us keep him as a family, because that was just my prayer, just to please let us keep him, please let us keep him, don't take him, and that was a massive prayer at that time because it didn't look like a prayer that would be answered, but he did answer it, and I'll be forever thankful and praising the Lord every day of my life for that and for Jonathan.
And I
Hallelujah.
suppose, Mark,
Yeah.
we belong to Kingsgate Church. You know, it's a massive church, and they have what they call their prayer army. You
Yeah.
know, and the prayers that they
Oh,
pray for everyone. They prayed for Robin. You know,
yeah.
we have a fella, Mike and Sheila. You know, who are,
Oh,
when
they're
we went to
amazing.
Kingsgate, they took us under their wing. You know, and looked after us. And there's strangers had sent gifts. You know, when I was ill, that we didn't even know from the church. You know, and said they were praying for us. And
Yeah.
like, you know, even from home,
It's
like, it didn't
unbelievable.
matter what community, Mark, there was candles being lit everywhere,
That's right.
Yeah.
you know, and people were praying. And like,
The good thing was people sent us over Tato crisps. It
Yeah.
was actually another answer to prayer.
Amen. That is good.
potato crisp, t- that's when I was actually
When you
at
get
home
home.
recovering. I was watching Pastor Lee, you know, even before he'd come on to yours, you know, and it's amazing. And I suppose we've, you know, with COVID, we've able to share a lot. Like we watched Nathan up in
Mm,
Brookborough there. Now, you need to cut down on his tea consumption. He's every time you see him, he's
Drinking, that's right.
yeah,
but
but no, the prayers from all over, the messages of support. I know it was made for great support that night, knowing that everybody was praying, and the prayer meetings that were held just within hours of Jonathan's accident. There was prayer meetings being held whilst he was in hospital. There was people praying in Romania, and obviously Northern Ireland was unbelievable. The home support, and England. There was
and
thousands of people praying for
I
Jonathan.
suppose, Mark, another thing is there's friends of mine who very, very rarely go to church, and people, their first port of call is to start praying when they're in need,
That's right.
but we need to do it before our hour of need, you know, and not just when we're in desperation, you know.
No.
Jonathan, you're exactly right. Well, folks, listen. All I can say to you both tonight, looking at you, I've always admired. Sorry, Wendy, for saying this first. I know the Willis family longer than you, and I've always,
It's fine.
from the day and hour I met George Willis and that beautiful smile of your father, Jonathan, and of course your mother was involved in
Yeah.
our wedding. We've just been so blessed knowing the Willis
Yes.
family. Wendy, I remember you from camps. Actually, some of the camps that I
Yeah.
took at Portmurn.
I think I went to
That's one maybe
for the
Camps,
just.
summer
yeah,
ones.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That
You've got a sister as well,
Yeah.
married
yeah,
to the fellow Wiley.
yeah,
Isn't that right? Yeah. So what?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, yeah,
What I want to say to you both, you see, sitting
yeah,
watching you both tonight, you are both shining Jesus Christ. It just shines out of you, and I mean that. It's just so infectious. It's so beautiful to see. And as we conclude this, I just want you just to share briefly, both of you short, just tell the folk that Jesus Christ is the only answer and what he means to you both?
Well, definitely, Jesus is the only answer. Like, was if he hadn't have had his hand on us, I wouldn't be here today. And not even that. Like, we just the way we want to bring up our children, is to follow that path as well. And to we have such good memories over my youth. At Gordmern camps and stuff like that. There, I'll never forget them. And just every day I get up now, it's my first port of call is to pray with the Lord to help me through the day and not hit somebody.
Amazing. Wendy, quickly tell us what the Lord means to you. I can see it in you anyway.
Yeah, well, like as I say, obviously I've been with Jonathon for 20 plus years, and what he's brought us through with Robin, and my niece was very ill, and how he's obviously saved Jonathon for us, and restored him for us to health again. I just couldn't be thankful enough, so I couldn't. And as I say to people over here, thank the Lord. And we do thank the Lord so much. And whenever Jonathon was in hospital, everybody used to come and say, "You are the luckiest man. You are just the luckiest man." And I think there was a man beside him in the hospital, and one day he turned around and he goes, "Everybody who comes to you keeps saying you're the luckiest man." He said, "But they don't realize it wasn't luck that day. The only reason you're still here is because of God above." And I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, folks, listen, I want to just bless you both and your 5 beautiful daughters, okay? I just know this video is going to be a blessing to so many people. I've had messages today asking me, when is Jonathon and Wendy Willis's video being released? So we have recorded it. It will be released. I want to thank you because I know that you're both not really public-y, upfronty people, but you've been a blessing to me tonight. Yeah. And I know you were both praying for me as I was going through my journey, and I appreciated it so much. Yeah. So thank you for that, and thank you for joining. I'm just going to announce for next week. Next week, we will be joined by Amanda Brown, stage 4 cancer. A little girl, a lovely daughter, Abigail, who's only 2, and a darling husband, Graham. And Amanda's going to join me and share that journey. So folks, from Wendy and from Jonathon Willis at Redgate Manor or Redgate Farm or whatever it's called.
No.
Just farm.
Mark, we would just like to thank everybody from the bottom of our hearts for their prayers and continued prayers. You know, we'll be eternally grateful to everyone.
Without a doubt.
Well, I can tell you, the people will be glad to hear that, and they are still praying for you both. And listen, open up a bed and breakfast and get us all over periodically.
No bother.
God bless you, and thanks for joining me. God bless you, folks. Good night. And
bye, Mark. Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.